is all about who can access my scans. One of the things we're doing in the Sitemorse Shorts webinar, the reason why it all came about, is we often get the same sort of support call coming in, and sometimes it's nice to talk about common things that we get. And one that we get from time to time from a lot of people is who has access to my scans, and they normally think about this when someone leaves the company. Oh yeah, can you take such and such off? But hang on, who else has got access? So this is what we are going to look at in this short webinar. So like all of these things, every presentation you ever go to, you should make sure that the presenter tells you why you should care about this presentation, because if the presenter can't do that, you should go probably do something more useful. But why should you care about this? Well, typically, if someone doesn't have access to a report that they need to have access to, you'll be straight onto us, or you'll be doing something, because obviously they're not getting their work done, and that's an issue. But of course, if someone has access to a report, but actually they no longer need it, well, that's never quite so much an urgent problem. So it always ends up on your list of things to ignore. But you should care about who has access to your reports. And what we've got here are a lot of the common reasons why sometimes our clients will end up with a whole load of people who've got access to reports. And then when you find out who has got access, you say, oh, well, that's unusual. I didn't know that. I didn't know that, and so on. So yeah, it's often someone moves department, and you don't care that they've got access to reports, and it just gets forgotten, or they leave and no one's told you. One of the most common ones is sort of the fourth point in here. Sometimes a client will get a series of web developers in to come and look at some stuff on the site. So the web developers get access to the reports, and you leave them with access even though the project's finished, just in case there's some snag fixing to be done, or a little bit of extra work they might need to do. And then you just sort of forget about that, and a year later they've still got access to your reports. And the one down the bottom, which I also see quite often, is that you're the new manager of the site or something like that, and all of the above happened while someone else was in charge, but you never actually got round to just checking who had access to what. So there are lots of reasons for it, and here are some the most common ones, and also why you should care, because only the people who are supposed to have access to the reports should have, really. So in what ways can people access reports? Well, the obvious one is, I've got a login and I've been given access to view the reports. That's one way. But for individual reports, there's also other ways that can be accessed as well. We have a particular type of email that we can send out called an editor email, and that contains a link which is very similar to a shared link, which will allow you to access a single report without requiring a login. And of course, the bottom one there, which I'm sure you're all aware of, is that you can share a report with someone who doesn't have a Sitemorse login. So those are the various ways that you can access the report. And what we're really talking about today is the first one, and that is the direct logins. So I'm using screenshots. You will notice that these screenshots have all been highly pixelated to protect the guilty, and it's also why I'm not doing a live demo. Those of you who've been here before will know I almost always do a live demo, but of course I can't do a live demo of a realistic site if it's actually got details of a client on there. But how do you find out who has access to what? Well, in the little cog, which is just behind the dialog there, you all know there's a little cog in the top left against each of the sites in your digital properties. You click on there and it gives you a whole load of options, two of which you might have noticed, which is assessment email recipients and assessment access. And what I'm going to talk about now is assessment access, because it's actually how you find out who has access to what. So when you click on that, you get a screen that looks an awful lot like this, and it is the name, email address of all the logins who have access to your all the reports from where you clicked on the cog. Now, you can remove those people if they no longer require access to the report, except you'll notice the very first one in the list, that's the master user. You can't remove that person. We always have to have a master user if you're a client. If you want that person removed or changed, that's something where you put in a support request and Sitemorse does that for you. Of course, the button down the bottom, grant other users access, because you might have other users for your account who have valid Sitemorse logins or maybe access to other sites that you've got in your digital properties, but don't have access to this particular one. So when you click on that button, it takes you to this screen and you see the little checkbox at the beginning. What you can do is say, oh yeah, I also want this login and this login and this login to have access, and click the confirm. And in case you were interested, when you click the remove from the previous screen, this is where these people end up. The login still exists, they just don't have access to it. So if you do remove someone and then you want to put them back on later, that's effectively the process that you go through. Now, not everybody has the assessment access link on there. Some people just have assessment email recipients where you can control that. But it's also a way to find out who potentially has access to the system, because if you click on there, you will see a list of people who are sent an email when the report runs, and you can add more people to that list in the same way that you could before, where you've got access to the everybody who's got access to the assessment. And again, what it will do is you'll see a whole list of people as you go through this, and that's when you can say to yourself, oh yeah, what are they doing on there? They they left months ago. So I told you this was short. We're on the last page here. What should you probably do next? Well, review who has access to your reports. Obviously, amend that as required. And of course, ask us for help. If there's someone that you can't remove yourself, or of course, if you want us to entirely disable a user from the system so that they appear in none of these lists, typically when someone leaves the company. So this really was a Sitemorse short. That's the end of that. Do feel free to unmute yourself and ask questions if you have any.